Last Friday, I had a closing with a client that I had never met until the actual closing day. And so, one of the things that I like to talk to people about when we're at closing is, how did you find me? And sometimes people tell me up front when they call, they're like, oh, I found you on Google, or oh, I'm a fan of your Facebook page, or I follow you on Instagram, or whatever the case may be. But this particular client had just emailed me out of the blue, told me his name, told me his situation. He's moving up here. He wanted to buy a house, wanted to know if I'd help him. And so we never really got to the part of why he wanted to work with me or how he knew me. So we get to closing. We meet out in the hallway going towards the attorney's office. And I said, well, I just have a quick question for you. I'm like, what made you pick me? How did you get my info? What made you call me? And he was like, well, my son came into your office. It's probably been 2 or 3 years ago. And you sat down with him and explained to him his options when it comes to pros and cons of renting versus buying, because he was going to be going to Carson Newman. And we weren't sure if he was better off just staying in the dorm or trying to rent a place close by or trying to buy a property. The man said, you just didn't act like we were a bother. You took your time, you answered our questions for my son, and that stood out to me. So my lesson in that is, you never know what's going to happen just from a single conversation. I didn't remember the man's name from 3 years previous, but he remembered me because of how I treated him and his son. So even though I knew that I probably wasn't going to get anything out of it at the time, I still was courteous, took the time to answer their questions, and try to give them the best advice possible, which is kind of neat.